It feels a little heavy on the reporting side, and I want to acknowledge that up front, but I hope that we can still engage in a dialogue.
And I recognize that, this is only a small part of the voice that we hope to hear over the course of the next several months. Start talking now about the future of the campus center so that we can manage that.
I think that's good to have an intimate space where people can attend, but I think that there needs to be different types of spaces that people with different levels of involvement and familiarity with the center can utilize. My perception when I walked in the room was that it was very cliquey, and maybe that's the space, or maybe that's who was using it at the time, but it didn't make me feel very welcome.
Do you feel like it's the employees, or is it the people who choose to hang out there versus people who don't?
That's the LGBT community, and in general, is that the folks that are more involved can be intimidating for people that have low comfort levels.
What your thought is about how our campus is or is not welcoming to students who may identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. How is our campus, how do we react to that?
In particular, there's a few floors that I can think of that we have one resident that's moving out based on harassment. I felt quite a bit of hostility my freshman year. But
From other residents?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from other residents that, will write stuff on boards and whiteboards, which isn't exactly like a new issue that I'm presenting to the table. It's something that consistently is an ongoing problem.
No, I think it's more a matter of the House fellows addressing it when it occurs, and I guess moving more towards education.
What might be done to address the hostility in the community?
And in past years, they've done some mandatory training. This last year, students were allowed to choose, which I thought problematic because if you're uncomfortable and or unable to deal with that sort of environment on your floor, you've opted out already.
I haven't seen much on campus from you folks. I know I stopped by the library on a couple of occasions to grab a book, but not the most visible organization.
I think that we try to advertise quite a bit, and we actually just had a big week of events for Transgender Week of Remembrance. And we had over 50 attendees at most of our events. So I wonder why you're not seeing it.
And I feel like I said, I did know a lot about the Trans Week of Remembrance, and I feel like the ways in which I heard about it, though, were ways that I had sought out.
It seems like I also heard a general vote of support for looking at the interactions with staff and faculty, being more intentional about them, create the webs of support for our students, and making that happen in more intentional or deliberate ways. Looking at the opportunities for leadership, I think leadership is an important thing that we foster here. And I agree a little bit with what Sean's saying, is that I think our students are forced in some ways to make choices about how they're going to divide their time and spend it. But I think there's opportunity there as well for a collective. And I'll use the example of, I have the Dean of Students Advisory Board, and that's got representatives from all different schools and colleges, grad students, and Aiden's actually on this. But I think it's a way to bring people together, and it might be a model that could be used for the different, LGBT-focused student orgs. It might be a model to bring it together. We have an opportunity here to also, welcome anybody else who may be wanting to participate or may be thinking about participating. That the center is a place to make that happen, a place to do that. There's obviously, Eric went through the kind of 3 or 4 roles that the center serves. I think the most important one is to make this very large campus a smaller one.